So hello, what's up, and welcome again to the channel. So for another deck tech video that we'll have for Pariksha Obi-Wan, we'll have this new version of the blue-white control, as we call this one as a tap-out deck. It's referring to the old school version of the blue-white control back in Syndicate and M11, and we have some of a few equivalents of those cards that we used. Now that we have some similar cards reference from Scars and Mirrodin Besiege, and now being reflected in the new set Pariksha All Will Be One. So we're going to go through the cards. We have 25 lands, 8 enchantments, 3 non-creature artifacts, 4 creatures basically, and some new cards as you can see in the red border, 9 instants, 6 planeswalkers, and 5 sorceries. So we have basically covered almost all of the card types in the game. So we're going to start with what blue-white tap-out deck would look like, or what its main strategy would be. And basically, we go with just controlling the board, wiping up some of the creatures with the sorceries, gain advantage by producing tokens out of these emperors, wedding announcements. Also, Restoration Brigand just flip version, wherein we get this Architect of Restoration as a good attacker and blocker, and gain also card advantage in the late game with some of the Sanctuary Gardens, Mundrak as a new option, and how we control most with the spot removals and also some hard counter spells needed for certain situations. So at the main step out, we don't really care what the opponent would play, unless of course there's a good reason for that spell to be countered, then we use these counter spells. But basically we just use some spot removals that are basically very efficient in dealing those threats as we go develop our own board. So we start with what probably is a ramp with this deck is with the Restoration Viganjo, wherein you will basically try to cast Search for a basic planes, and also you get to sort of a semi-ramp here. When you discard a card, if you do, return target permanent card with mana value 2 or less from the graveyard to the battlefield top. So if you discard some extra lands or your extra lands, you're basically ramping out by returning that permanent card back into play tap. So not really drawback here, because it basically ramps up your mana source, and at the same time, if you go into the third lore, it would flip into the Architect, wherein it will be a good vigilant attacker. When it attacks or blocks, it will create a 1/1 spirit creature token, which is also a bonus creature generator in your board. So just a quick note on this, of the second ability, you can also have a good target here in the form of this new card, which is Surgical Skull Bomb. So this one is just basically one to cast card draw effect. You may sacrifice it, draw a card, and you may pay 3, sacrifice Skull Bomb, return target creature to its owner's hand, and then draw a card. So activate on a sorcery, which doesn't matter here because we don't really need to go and tap on our opponent's turn. So having this one sacrifice and then using Iganjo's ability to basically return the Spell Bomb back into the field gets you another option again to use these 3 abilities. So that is what I mean with some notes. And also we can also return Bankbuster in case that the opponents was able to destroy this one by a spot removal or some sort. Then we just use again just ability to return it back to the battlefield, refreshed with these 3 new charge counters. So this is another way of our best card in the format to be used as card draw and also a good threat in the late game. Now, in partner with this enchantment, we also some ways to come up the board, basically with wedding announcements, creating tokens, drawing cards, and also having an anthem effect as it flip on the wedding festivity. So with that said, our other threats, basically going with the late game, is with these 4 creatures. So basically we have 3 Sanctuary Guardians. This ability that enters the battlefield with 2 shield counters, so you may remove a counter from a creature or planeswalker you control. So if you do, you will create a 1/1 green and white citizen creature token and drawing a card. So basically that just means that you would not really need to remove the shield counter from the warden, but basically you remove a counter from a creature or planeswalker you control. That means you can remove a counter from Wandering Emperor. You can also, I think, remove a counter on Restoration Viganjo to have another effect added to it. So that's basically how you would devise, or how you would play on this one, that you would be really optimizing your turn by having another card drawn and at 1/1 blocker citizen creature token in your setup. So this is basically your biggest threat, because you can go flying and go past through most of the blockers. And along with it, we also have a copy of Mondrak. So this is the first Dominos that was added in this kind of build, because of its ability that is not only a 4/4/4/4 because of the ability that if one or more tokens will be created under your control, they will create those tokens twice. So basically generating tokens from the winning announcement, from the Honorary Emperor, from White's Line Twilight, would give you twice the number with Mondrak in play. So how would you really protect his ability? You would just use this activation and sacrifice 2 other artifacts and creatures. That's basically more of some of your tokens that you produced, to put an indestructible counter on Mondrak Lord Dominos. So they're basically making him indestructible and would really hard to deal with destroy effects, unless of course there are exiles that can basically deal with him. Now for the board that would be really needed to control, we have some new options aside from the Populate and Farewell. Is this new card, White Sun's Twilight. So this reminds me of that card which has basically the same mana cost and effect, except that instead of creating soldiers, you would be creating colorless protection might artifact creature tokens with toxic 1, and those can't block, and you would also gain life. That the only similar from that old card I remember is that if X is 5 or more, destroy all other creatures. So this is basically a good late game effect in cases that your opponents would have gummed up another batch of threats in their board. You can use White Sun's Twilight's ability to basically wipe them out, at the same time create your own army of 1/1 Persian Might artifact tokens that can also give you the option to have winning against opponent with your toxic 1 or poison counter abilities. So this is one of your most important sorcery, mass removal, and creature producer threat all in one in just one card. So in addition to that, again, we'll visit the new card with the Wandering Emperor, since we already know it really fits well with its ability, having to produce this War 1 Samurai white tokens, and also having spot removals and putting a flashy effect by killing off a top creature and gaining 2 life, is the support of Jace the Perfected Mind. So this one will go with this ability to only can be casted with 3 to cast by paying 2 life instead of blue mana, but he will go with 2 lesser counters with the starting loyalty. So it would not really matter here, since we're going to go with the control scenario. So we're going to be able to hard cast this one for 4 and have these options to that. You can also have draw a card for milling 3 cards, then also have this option to mill player 3 times of those X cards. So in any given scenario, you would just basically have the target creature gets -0, making them very inefficient to attack or to deal damage to your planeswalkers, and at the same time go off with milling out their library if that option's open in the late game. So most of these 2 planeswalkers are basically your utility planeswalkers, but not really sort of a win condition, but a long-term card value as you go along, because of the control nature of this deck. Now lastly, for the spot removals, we have some variants aside from the hard counters. These are evil. We have Soul Partition also, which is becoming a popular choice because of exiling good non-land permanent, but they would be able to cast this later on, but having 2 more to cast would really delay them in the process of gaining card advantage if they would really need to go with that spell. So along with that, we have also Spiteful Absence that can basically get out creature or planeswalker. The drawback on Investigate would not really matter, because of we would want to have the game stay as long as we need before we go off with our good threats. So having them investigating and having the clue sacrifice for their turn instead of casting out more threats would really delay them and have the game to our favor. Again, the counter spells I've chosen here as hard counters, but why Earth Scorn? And only 2 copies because of the option of having 1 blue mana less if an opponent casts 2 or more spells this turn. There are certain situations wherein opponents would really go with 2 for 1 effects, or casting a bait spell and then casting their main spell. Then you would use Earth Scorn to counter the second one. Now for the Reject Imperfection, which I've chosen as a new card, added here so as a counter spell because of its ability that if the spell's mana value is 3 or less, proliferate, which means if there are any permanents you have here that have counters, for example, we have some Mechanical Buster, Emperor, and some other Planeswalker here, Sanctuary Guardian, we really need to have another of those counters added, so making us sure that we can be really having those value. But then again, the purpose here is that we really go with countering a hard counter, and that would only have this situational spell that has mana value 2 or less that has been countered by this spell. So anyway, that's basically up or non-land spells. And just few notice here, just a new inclusionary lands because of blue-white is the reprint of Seacrom Coast, which is again a very good mana fix back in the day, and we will be able to use it again in this format. And along with it also the usual stuff that we have for blue-white, or Lodestyle Reliquary that can give you to draw a card, controlling artifact and enchantments, and some utility cards with the Tawara, Iganju, and also a lone copy of Mirex again because of our control nature in the late game. We can have enough mana to go with this one by creating these colorless Phyrexian Might artifact creature tokens to basically have some more over threats, and eventually if the situation permits is that we can be willing killing off players with poison counters. So that's basically it for this version of our blue-white Tapout control deck for 1 standard. We would have some sideboard discussions soon in the next video, but for now we're going to wrap this one up with some mana curve value. Surprisingly, we have a 3.29, so we were basically functioning back in 3 mana cost and 4 mana cost. But the good thing here is that our big spells would probably go in the late game with this curve of Wandering Emperors. But we make sure also that our threats are constantly added with these cards, winning announcement, restoration of Ganja, flipping, and supporting them up with our counter spells. Core distribution, white is 19 and 16 for the blue producers. Basically that's basically balanced, but our main white cards are basically going with 39 and blue cards with 12. And last but not least, our tokens that we have for this deck: Citizen token from Borden, Absence Clue, Human from Wedding Announcement, Pilot also from Buster, Samurai from the Emperor, Spirits from this one would be going with the flip restoration of Meganjo, and Treasure token is added along with the Pilot. So that's basically about it, guys. Thank you for watching this video. Let's see you next one, and hopefully we'll have a good take on what Phyrexia will be one to be a good addition to the standard format, and also for some of the older formats such as Pioneer. So that's about it. Thank you for checking this video, and see you on the next one.